year before I had kids. So I'm super excited to be here. Ayurveda is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. Just to give you a little bit about a background about myself, my sort of formal education is in sports medicine and physical therapy. I found that when I was working in the field, doing that work, that it was very sort of like pigeonholed, right? People would come in with a knee issue, but they also wanted to talk about all the other things that were going on in their body and in their lives. And it was sort of frustrating for me because of my role, I could only focus on the knee. So I love Ayurveda because it incorporates not only the physical body, but the mind and the spirit as well. So my journey in college, I started taking yoga classes, and that's sort of been the sort of backbone to the past probably like 25 years of my life. That's always been a major constant in my life. And probably about 10 or 12 years ago, I was introduced to the science of Ayurveda. And Ayurveda is considered the sister science to yoga. So when I found out that there was this sort of medical system that was closely related to yoga, I just completely fell in love. And to me, it's really the missing link between, you go to your doctor and they're like, they give you this medicine. My job is to really kind of teach you all like the other things that you should be doing, like how should you be eating, what lifestyle changes should you be making, what time should you be going to bed, all those sort of things. So let me just switch the page here. We'll go on into the presentation. So just to give you a little bit of information, if you're unfamiliar with Ayurveda, it is considered the science of life. If you break down that word Ayurveda, Veda means knowledge, Ayur means life. That's a Sanskrit word. So it's really the science of life. And it really looks at the whole person, body, mind, and spirit. It doesn't look like anything on its own. And one of the biggest mistakes I think we make as people is thinking that we're separate from the natural world around us, and we're not. We are a microcosm of the macrocosm. So anything and everything that happens in the universe and nature, that's going to have an impact on us, on our body, on our mind, and our spirit. Now we're living in an age where we're all in houses. We have electricity, we have heat and air conditioning. So we're definitely much more removed from the natural world than we were early on. So that kind of gives us this idea that we're separate. But Ayurveda reminds us that we are not separate. We are all part of that same system made up of all of those same building blocks. So Ayurveda is primarily a preventative form of medicine, and it is a holistic healthcare system. So we use primarily food, herbs, lifestyle modifications, yoga, breath work, all of those things as treatment modalities. But you can really use anything. So Ayurveda says that everything and anything can be nourishment, medicine, or poison, depending on that person. So I might recommend to a client that they need to be incorporating more heating, spicy herbs and spices into their diet. That might be perfect for one person, but that might throw another person completely out of balance, give them, diarrhea, maybe skin rashes, that sort of thing. So it's really a very tailored, individualized system of medicine. And what I'm hoping you guys get out of this today is I would love for you to be able to go out into your life and look at the things that you're eating, the way that you live your life, the people that you surround yourself with, how you spend your time, the experiences you have, all through an Ayurvedic lens, and start to get super curious about how those things are affecting you. Because everything that you take in through your senses your body, mind, and spirit has to digest that, right? Not just food, right? We all understand that we need to digest our food, but every experience that you take in, your body has to digest that. So that's going to have either a positive or a negative impact on your health. So what I would love for you guys to do is just start to look at, as we go through the presentation, hopefully things start to get a little bit more clearer for you. But I would love for you to start looking at everything sort of through an Ayurvedic lens. So to start talking about Ayurveda, we need to address the 5 elements. So the most basic building blocks in nature are earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And like I said, we are not separate from the world around us, the universe around us. So all of these elements that are out there in nature are also within us. So then that brings us to the doshas. So we have 3 doshas, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And these can be looked at as like energetic forces of nature. So you guys may have heard, oh, what's your dosha? Or what's your mind body type? Or what's your constitution? That's what we're talking about here. And Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, that's sort of just a simple way that Ayurveda gives us to be able to categorize and describe the world around us and also us as well. So the 3 doshas, like I said, everything contains all those 5 elements. So each one of those doshas contains all 5 elements as well. But with the doshas, they're predominantly composed of 2. So as we go through the presentation, we'll break each one of them down and you'll get a little bit more information about each one. But our dosha is our own unique blueprint. It's like our special sauce. So we each have all 3 of those doshas, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha within ourselves. But we're going to have different proportions of them, different ratios. So our unique special sauce is going to be our particular dosha ratio. And you can also look at it, it's your genetic makeup. That's what you were born with, right? Your special sauce. As we age, as we go through the seasons, as even the different times of day, your special sauce, your dosha, that doesn't change, right? Your genetic makeup, that doesn't change. But the effects as we move throughout our life, you're going to start to notice some changes, right? Like the expression of that dosha or the expression of that genetic makeup, it starts to look a little bit different. So let me give you guys an example. Maybe you grew up and you had really thick, beautiful, luscious hair, right? When you were a kid. And then as you age, maybe it started to thin, maybe it started to get a little bit dry, or maybe it started to curl or something like that. Your genetic makeup, your dosha, that has not changed, but the effects of just sort of living life in general, the expression has changed, right? Things got a little bit different. So your dosha, your special sauce, however you want to look at it, that doesn't change. But as we just live in general, all these things are affecting us. So there's going to be some changes or imbalances. So simply, doshas are a functional principle that help us to understand ourselves and the world around us. And I think as we kind of move on, that's a little bit sort of like a big thing to kind of wrap your head around. But as we go through the slides, hopefully you'll get a better understanding of the doshas. So the first one is Vata. So Vata is made up predominantly of air and ether. So just to remind you, it does have all 5 elements, but it's mostly air and ether. So I'm starting with the most subtle of the 3 doshas, right? Air and ether, not a whole lot of substance to them, right? Very light, the lightest of the doshas. And Vata is primarily responsible for movement. So it governs anything and everything within our bodies and within the universe that causes movement. And each one of the doshas has its own gunas or qualities. So vata, if you're thinking about air and ether, light, the qualities are going to be dry, light, cool, and mobile. So that to me makes a lot of sense because those elements, air and ether, are very dry. They're very light. So if you take a look at this picture over here, you can see vata season. So fall is vata season. Things are dry, things are light, they're cool, they're mobile. There's a lot of change happening in the fall. The animals are moving around a lot. They're getting, storing acorns and getting themselves ready for the winter. There's a lot of movement for us as well during that particular time of year. Kids are starting to go back to school. We're starting to prepare for the holidays. A lot of change is happening. So vata season is the fall. So I'm not going to get too much in the weeds on that. Let's go to the next slide. So like I said, vata is responsible for movement. So anything that is moving in ourselves and in the universe, that is governed by that dosha vata. So within our bodies, it's responsible for muscle movement, nerve impulses, the breath, your heartbeat, sensory perception, communication, movement of thoughts. All of those things are governed by vata. And then as we're going through these slides, I want you guys to think about yourselves and also your family and friends and kind of see if you can pick out who are your vata friends, who are your pitta friends, who are your kapha friends. So a vata mind body type or somebody with a predominantly vata dosha, those are our creative, curious friends. They're people with thinner frames, right? Because remember, the two elements that make up vata dosha are air and ether. So they're thinner people. Maybe they have thin hair or curly hair. Their skin tends to be a little bit drier. They might have quick or busy minds, right? When they start to go out of whack, they sort of tend towards being more worriers or more anxious. They're the friends. This is not me, but these are the people in your life that like forget to eat meals. Like that would never be me. Vata people could skip a meal. They forget to eat. They're pickier about what they're eating. They tend to be a little bit restless sleepers, maybe dream a lot. And when things start to go out of whack, they have a tendency towards constipation. So bring yourself back to those two elements that make up vata, air and ether, and those qualities, dry, light, mobile, cool, and kind of look at that, keep those qualities in mind, those gunas in mind, and hopefully the description of the vata person makes a little bit more sense. So our vata people are the friends that are sort of always on the move. They have lots of interests. They're very creative, probably into the arts and that sort of thing. Again, thinner frame, their features are a little bit smaller. So those are our vata folks. And I love this picture over here of this little one on the side, because this picture to me really is like the perfect description of vata, right? There's tons of different colors. This person has cute little flower undies on, a striped shirt, little leggings of a different pattern. There's a lot of variation. There's a lot of things going on in the room, a lot of busyness. That right there is like the perfect depiction of vata. So hopefully that makes a little bit more sense. So when our vata people are in balance, they have lots of creativity. They're able to kind of bounce back and forth between their different interests, but not sort of get out of whack. So we'll take a look at what they look like when they are out of balance. So vata, because it is the most insubstantial, like the least amount of substance, right? Because of those two light elements of air and ether. That's the easiest dosha to go out of balance. So what we typically see when folks are out of balance is a lot of gas and bloating and constipation. So think again, air and ether, right? That makes a lot of sense. You have this excess of air and ether in your physical constitution and also in your mind as well. So you might start to see gas, bloating, constipation. And this can happen to somebody that's not even, you might not be a Vata person in general. And I didn't say this in the beginning, but typically people have two doshas that describe themselves, right? So typically you have one dosha that you're, definitely really high in. And then there's a close second. And then you probably have a third one that's sort of way down the line. So I myself am a Pitta Vata. So you might see as we go through this presentation here, you're going to start to see before we even take the quiz, which doshas you most likely are. So when our Vata folks go out of balance, they might experience some dry skin, hair start to get dry, maybe brittle nails, maybe some muscle twitches. Vata people, when they're out of balance, they could start to talk a lot. They're the people that, you're having like 5 different conversations with them all at the same time. Difficult for them to sort of stay on topic. They may experience cold hands and feet. Vata people, when out of balance, tend to be anxious or sort of worry a little bit more. They might have some difficulty focusing, difficulty sleeping, or even staying asleep. So again, anybody can get a Vata imbalance. It's easier for people that are already predominantly Vata for them to get out of balance even easier. So let's talk about how to get ourselves back into balance, right? So one of the main rules of Ayurveda is opposite qualities pacify doshas. So if you're feeling, if you're having a lot of gas and dryness in the skin, you're feeling you have a lot of extra air and that those cool, dry qualities in your body, you're not going to eat popcorn and cold drinks, right? You're going to want to offset those qualities with opposing qualities. So you're going to want to eat some warm, cooked foods. You're going to want to bring in some heaviness. So maybe stews and soups, warm, moist foods to offset all of that air and ether, those cool, dry, mobile qualities. You're going to want to add some healthy oils like ghee. Ghee is a beautiful, really healthy, nourishing fat. In Ayurveda, that's something that's recommended a lot. The ghee, it's said that the ghee actually, when you incorporate ghee and herbs and spices into a meal, the ghee actually drives the herbs and spices into the tissues, having that positive medicinal effect on the body. So you're going to want to offset those cool, dry, mobile qualities with some warmth, some moisture, some heaviness. So you're going to want to limit your raw foods and caffeine. You're going to want to create some consistency, right? Vata needs sort of like this bubble to sort of live in. It needs to be contained. So creating a consistent schedule, whether that's sleeping, eating, that's going to be really beneficial for Vata to kind of create this container for it to be in, to kind of create these boundaries for it to sort of settle down in. You can focus on just doing one task at a time. You can do Abhyanga with sesame oil. So Abhyanga is just a simple self oil massage on the body. So focusing, you can spend 20 minutes oiling your body, or you can spend 5 minutes before bed, rubbing some sesame oil on your feet. That's going to be really grounding. It's going to introduce those unctuous, oily, soothing, grounding qualities into your system to offset all of that movement and instability that Vata brings. So it's a really lovely thing to do. And that's one of like the cornerstone treatments in that I recommend to my clients is doing Abhyanga. It's really a beautiful practice. You can use different oils for different doshas, but it really is very beneficial to all the doshas. It is a beautiful self-care practice, very grounding, very soothing to the nervous system. And rest your senses, right? So when you're taking in, when you're around a million people, you're constantly watching TV or you're constantly on your phone or you're always having, you're listening to a podcast or listening to the radio, when your senses are being bombarded with information, that is all information that your body needs to incorporate, needs to digest and incorporate. So give your senses a rest. Shut off the radio when you're in the car, shut off the TV, go up to your room 20 minutes before bed and put some oil on your feet, take some time to really, take a warm bath or, be mindful, even just brushing your teeth and washing your face. All of those things are going to be really grounding. Like I said in the beginning, anything and everything can either be medicine or poison. So you could just be really feeling super flustered and overwhelmed. And when you're feeling those things, that's a Vata imbalance. And just even going outside and gazing at a giant maple tree is going to bring those grounding qualities, that grounding energy into your body. Try it. Trust me, it sounds funny, but try it and you will notice that grounding sensation. I just did this with my daughter the other day. Another thing you can do are some grounding yoga poses. So think about, things that are focusing on your feet or like a child's pose, or even go through your regular yoga practice with the focus on your connection to the feet, to the earth, or connection to your lower body. Get in touch with feeling the weight of your body, get in touch with feeling the sense of gravity on your body. Think about all of those grounding things and focus on the exhale. So even if you move through your regular yoga practice, or even if you continue to do your regular exercise routine, focusing on your feet, focusing on the lower half of the body, focusing on that exhale is all going to start to bring those grounding qualities into your body and your mind and sort of calm that Vata down. So even just doing some breath work and focusing on the exhale, maybe making the exhale 1 or 2 beats a little bit longer than the inhale, you'll start to notice everything starts to come down. The mind starts to quiet and things start to slow down a little bit. Okay. All right, so that was Vata. The next one we have is Pitta. So this is our next dosha, and Pitta is made up of predominantly of fire and water. And it governs any type of transformation that happens within our bodies and again, within the world around us, right? Because we're not separate from the universe. So any type of transformation that happens, that's governed by Pitta. And the gunas, or the qualities that describe Pitta, are hot, sharp, light, mobile with direction, right? Vata is mobile, but it's sort of scattered and mobile. Pitta has a little bit more intention to it. There's a direction, a purpose. So if we take a look at this picture over here, the summer, the summertime is Pitta season, right? That's when we see that fire, right? That heat. a lot of light in the summertime as well. So the summer is Pitta season. So if you are typically predominantly a Pitta person like I am, I know this one well. In the summertime, I need to be really careful to keep my Pitta in check. I have a tendency to get rashes, get all sorts of unpleasant Pitta imbalance effects, which is not good. So I'm sure there's lots of other Pitta people out there as well. But let's talk about that a little bit more. So again, Pitta is responsible for transformation. Pitta is responsible for digestion. It's also the stomach acids in our body, right? It transforms the food that we eat into energy. So it's those stomach acids that break it down. That can think of stomach acids, you think of that fire in the belly, right? It's responsible for absorbing and assimilating our food. It's responsible for our metabolism and also our appetite, right? When you're hungry, you start to get like sort of like that burning sensation in your belly. That's Pitta. And you know, the Pitta people, like they're the ones like, I could not skip a meal, right? When it is lunchtime, it is lunchtime. And that's your Pitta that's telling you like, hey, I'm hungry. It's also responsible for your body temperature. It's responsible for intelligence, understanding, comprehension. It is responsible for courage and ambition, right? That fire in your belly, that determination, right? That is what Pitta is. And I love this picture of this little one here with her fiery red hair, right? This is a perfect picture of a little Pitta person. So people that have a lot of Pitta in their constitution, they're like the leaders of the group, right? So when you're in a group situation, whether it's at work or in your family, like they're the one with the plan, they're the one with the clipboard, they're keeping everybody sort of on track. They have a very innovative mind, sharp intellect. So think about those qualities. One of them is sharp, right? That fire, that sharp intellect. Where Vata people have more of like a thinner frame, Pitta people have more of like a medium-sized frame, a moderate frame. They have have a little bit more of an athletic build, right? As opposed to Vata people that are much thinner and a little bit finer. Pitta people have a lot of sensitivity. So because there's so much fire, they could have a sensitive stomach or sensitive skin. They could be reactive to a lot of things if they're not keeping that fire in check. Like I said, the Pitta people are the leaders. They're perfectionists, right? They have that focus, that sharp focus that Pitta gives them. And when they go out of whack, they tend to get angry and frustrated. They tend to get judgmental. Whereas the Vata people, when they get out of whack, they're going to be a little bit more anxious and worried. Pitta people lash out, right? They're hot-headed. They have a short fuse. Our Pitta folks might have fine or straight hair. They're also prone to early graying and also early balding as well. So I like this picture of this guy here. To me, he seems like he's competitive. You know, he's not out for like a jog. He looks like he's out to win something. And he's also balding a bit as well. So I thought that was a good picture. Like I said before, Pitta people have a strong appetite. They're pretty good sleepers. You know, they fall asleep. They, tend to sleep pretty well. If they do wake up in the night, it's probably between around midnight to 2 a.m. is typically the time that they wake up. But they're moderate sleepers. They don't sleep too much and it's not too light. It's kind of like right in the middle. When they go out of whack, they tend to, because there's so much heat, they tend to have more diarrhea. Vata people tend to have a little bit more constipation because of that dryness. And they also have a tendency to overheat as well. So pitta out of balance, this is what it looks like. You could have diarrhea, acid reflux. Again, come back to these two elements and they'll start to make a little bit more sense. Fire and water, acid reflux, maybe a sour stomach, skin rashes, acne, hot flashes, bloodshot eyes, start to get judgmental, critical, short fuse, hot tempered. You know, you might start to be closed-minded, start to kind of get like, just I'm focusing on one thing, not sharp focus, as opposed to being a little bit more open-minded about things. They start to become overly competitive and they have that tendency to burn out. So one of the things that when we are in balance, when our doshas are in balance, we crave things that are going to keep us in balance. When we are out of balance, we crave things that are going to bring us further out of balance. So for example, summertime, right? There's already a lot of heat, a lot of fire in the world around us. So we're going to take that on within ourselves. If you are predominantly a pitta person to begin with, like I am myself, I need to stay away from margaritas. I love margaritas in the summer. What's not to love? But that is probably the worst thing that I could be ingesting in the summertime, because it's going to have so much heat, and that sourness and the alcohol in general is going to already bring more heat into my body. And for some reason, because I'm out of whack in the summertime, I crave spicy food, like Mexican food. So it's important for me to be mindful of that and to do things that instead are going to exacerbate my pitta imbalance, do things that are going to bring in foods and things that are going to calm and cool my system, right? So if you're a pitta person in the summer, you probably don't want to be taking a Bikram yoga class or a hot yoga class. So that'll bring me to my next slide. Let's talk about how to bring pitta people back into balance.
Sharon, I just want to interrupt you for 1 minute. I'm sorry. There's a question in the chat. Are we supposed to be choosing what type we are? She's not sure what she's supposed to do with the information. So if you clarify.
Just take it all in right now. And then we're going to go through a quiz. We'll go through some questions that you'll be able to answer, and that will break down, that will give you a better idea of what your dosha is. But as we go through these, I'm guessing you're probably like, yep, that's me, that's me, that's me, or nope, that's not really me yet. So just, take it in right now. And then I think it'll, when we do the quiz, it'll make a little bit more sense and give you an idea of your own unique constitution.
Thank you so much. And I should have said earlier, if you have questions, please put them in the chat and we'll address them at the end. Okay, keep going, Sharon. Thank you.
So when you're out of balance as a pitta, you want to limit caffeine, right? Caffeine's going to be heating, alcohol, fried or spicy foods, any of those things you really want to avoid or limit. And like I said in the beginning, be curious about how the foods that you're eating affect your body, right? Really start to pay attention. You're going to want to create a consistent sleeping and eating schedule. That's really going to be important for all three doshas, keeping all three doshas in balance, creating that consistency, right? When your body knows what to expect, it's able to calm down a little bit. It trusts that it's going to be fed, it's going to be nourished, it's going to be rested the way that it needs to, and it doesn't have to be worrying about any of those things. You can do that abhyanga, so that self oil massage with coconut oil. So sesame oil is a little bit warming and grounding. Coconut oil is a little bit lighter and has some cooling qualities. So that's really nice to do in the summertime, or if you have a pitta imbalance. Again, rest your senses, right? So think about all the stimulation that you're taking in and how can you quiet some of that, right? You have to, everything that you take in your body needs to digest and assimilate. So rest your senses, right? Lay down on your couch with an eye pillow on your eyes for 10 minutes. Any of those things are going to be really grounding and calming, and pacifying to any of the doshas. So instead of doing a heated yoga class or going out for, your typical run, like this is going to be the time where you're going to be wanting to do some restorative yoga, maybe a walk as opposed to a run, or an intense, high intensity workout. You can do some belly breathing, right? Where you're just sitting with your hands on your belly with your eyes closed and just being really mindful of the breath as it moves in and out of the body. All of those things are going to be really calming and cooling for Pitta. So like I said, when we were on the Vata slide, you want to bring in opposing qualities, right? So instead of aggravating the dosha further with like qualities, you want to bring in opposing qualities to offset that, the heat, the sharpness, that intensity. Okay. Right. And then our next one is kapha. So this is our most substantial dosha. So kapha is made up of earth and water. So when I think of earth and water, I think of mud, right? It creates this thick mud. So kapha is building, right? So if we take a look over here at this picture, I'm guessing it's springtime. I don't know what those flowers are, but to me, it's springtime. So kapha, springtime is kapha season, when things are coming back to life, they're building, they're growing. And also this little one here is in their kapha stage of life, right? They're building, they're growing. So as we move throughout, the seasons and throughout our times of our lives, we're also transitioning into more of these doshas as well. So when we're younger, we go through this kapha season where we're building and we're growing and forming and developing. Then when we move into midlife, 20s, 30s, 40s, we're building, where our lives are transforming, right? We have a lot of drive, a lot of motivation, a lot of fire, right? That's our pitta time of life. And then as we age, 50s, 60s, 70s, as we get older, that's the vata time of life, right? Things start to get a little bit drier, a little bit more fragile, right? That's sort of the lighter time of life, right? You can even see that like in the physical body of a young child, right? They have the juicy cheeks and like the thick hair, and they're like solid little bodies, versus, somebody that's in their 70s or 80s, like their bones are thinner, their bone density is less, their hair is much thinner. So start to see that, right, in the people around you. Start to notice, in yourself, these different qualities and these different doshas. And, I encourage you to kind of look at your life through an Ayurvedic lens and see where you can see the different qualities. So coming back to the gunas, or the qualities of kapha. So because it's made out of earth and water, and it's building, it's heavy, it's cold, it's liquid, it's dense, it's soft, it's static. So these are all the qualities of kapha. So again, kapha is building. So it's responsible for growth. It's the lubrication, right? That moisture in our joints. It repairs and regenerates things in our body. It's responsible for the water and electrolyte balance in our bodies. It's the protective gastric secretions, right? If we didn't have like these kapha secretions in our belly, those pitta gastric secretions would just burn through our systems, right? So we have this protective, lubricating, these lubricating secretions that protect the belly. It's responsible for strength and stamina, right? It's building, right? These kiddos are building. It's memory retention, right? It's forgiveness and it's compassion, right? Kapha people are the people that are like, yeah, I lent you that lawnmower 10 years ago and I haven't forgotten. Like, I'm not mad about it, but I know that you still have my lawnmower. Like, they don't forget anything, right? They have that, there's so much earth and water that they have this, they're able to create these deep grooves, right? In that sort of muddy kapha in their system, that they're able to retain a lot of information for a long period of time. So our kapha people love to sleep, right? They like to sleep. They're the ones that like to sleep in. I love this description. They're sort of like the mom of the group, like the caregivers. This little guy has got like, he's got the kapha body going on, you know, a little bit more solid of a frame, a little bit sturdier. Kapha is really, it's really love, it's forgiveness, it's compassion. And I just see that in his sweet little face. Kapha people have a steady mind, right? Our Pitta people have the tendency to, you know, they have this sort of focused, driven mind. Kapha people are more steady, right? Vata people are sort of busier. Their minds are busier. They're all over the place a little bit more, have a lot of interests. But our Kapha people, our Kapha friends, those are the steadier folks. They have good memory. They're able to stay focused. They have a solid and sturdy build. Like I said, they're the mom, the caregivers of the group. They're the ones that are bringing in cookies to the office meeting. They're compassionate and loving. They're the type of people that sort of let things roll off their back. You know, the people that just kind of take stuff on, and they just kind of let it go. But when they do go out of whack, they do have this tendency to slip into more of like a sadness or a depression. Because of all that earth and water in their system, they have that thick, lustrous hair. You know, their skin is moist and thick. Even though they tend to have maybe a heavier or larger build, they do have a mild appetite, right? They're the type of people that will eat, you know, just for the point of like being together with their loved ones, right? They don't have a super strong appetite, but they can gain weight easily. They're the solid sleepers. When they do go out of whack, because there's so much earth and water, they do have a tendency to get constipated as well. And they have a tendency towards congestion. Go over to this next slide here. Yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit more. Kapha out of balance. So when Kapha people, this picture's funny. When Kapha people are out of balance, they get stuck in the mud, right? They're in a rut. Like I'm sure I know it's certainly happened to me, right? You don't, because we are made up of all three of these doshas, even though I don't have a lot of kapha in my constitution, there's been plenty of times where my kapha has gone out of balance, where I feel like I'm stuck in the mud or maybe a bit depressed. When kapha is out of balance, your skin can get really oily or your hair gets really oily. Kapha season, like I said a couple slides ago, is the springtime. So that's why we all get sick in the spring, right? We have all this extra mucus and congestion because there's so much of this earth and water, these elements in nature and around us. And because we're not separate from that, right? That earth and water is in us as well. So we have this tendency to get mucusy and congested and, you know, springtime colds, that sort of thing. When kapha people are out of balance, they can easily gain weight, get kind of lethargic, constipated, depressed, sad, kind of like a lack of desire, motivation, right? They don't have that fire that they need. And Kapha people have a tendency to hold a grudge, right? When they're out of whack as well, right? They because they don't let things go, they can hold on to it instead of being, a really positive thing. It can be a negative thing and basically something that's detrimental to them as well, right? Holding on to that negativity. So to bring Kapha people back into balance, or even if you are not, like I said, predominantly a Kapha person, you can get out of balance. And that might happen to you, might be more likely for that to happen to you in the springtime because that is Kapha season. But again, warm, light cooked foods with heating spices. So you're not, as a Kapha person, or when your Kapha is out of balance, you already have a lot of that heaviness, right? Those qualities of earth and water. So you're not going to want these like heavy stews and soups, but you're going to want things that are going to be a little bit lighter. So maybe, some rice with ghee and some, steamed vegetables, things that are going to be easy to digest. Also incorporated with heating spices, right? So Kapha, when it goes out of whack, it needs something to kind of kick it out of that rut, like kind of get it out of its rut, like get it moving. So spice and those heating foods are going to bring that back into your constitution. So limiting meat and dairy products, cold or heavy foods, like these are all things that you're going to want to avoid. When you have a cold, when your Kapha is out of balance in the springtime, like you don't want to sit down to a big bowl like yogurt or ice cream, right? Like bringing more earth and water heaviness is not what you want. You want to offset it with those opposing qualities. So again, third time you guys have seen this, creating a consistent sleeping and eating schedule, super important. And then doing a vigorous abhyanga, so that's self-oil massage. So maybe instead of doing that in the evening to calm yourself down, maybe that's something that you do in the morning, a more vigorous massage, maybe with some skin brushing, right? With either like a dry washcloth or get a skin brush. That's going to get everything moving. And you want to stimulate your senses. So that doesn't mean, listen to the radio constantly, but, be around other people, find some variety in your day, find things that interest you, do things that interest you, get some more movement, get some more variety in your life, get yourself out of that rut that you're in, right? That being, having that excess Kapha in your constitution can create. So vinyasa yoga is really nice for a Kapha imbalance. Something where you're moving one breath per movement, or moving a little bit more vigorously than you typically would. Like this doesn't mean you need to sign up for, a 5K or a half marathon. It just means start to move a little bit more, get things moving. And then again, notice, right? Notice the effect that it has on your body and your mind and your spirit. So what's your dosha? So this is where we're going to take a little self quiz, and hopefully you guys have an idea now, what dosha you are predominantly. And like I said in the beginning, typically sometimes people are all three doshas. It's not super common, but typically what I see is you have one predominant dosha, then there's sort of like a close second, and then there's like the third one is way down the line. So as we go through each one of these questions, each answer will have either a V, a P, or a K next to it. So all you guys need to do is tally up how many V's you have, how many P's you have, and then how many K's you have. And that will give you an idea of what your predominant dosha is, which one comes in second, and then which one comes in third. So the first one, frame. I'm thin, lanky, or slender with prominent joints and thin muscles. I have a medium and symmetrical build with good muscle development. Full figured, big boned, or have a stocky build. So pick one of those and keep track of how many V's, P's, and K's that you have at the end. There's about 12 or 13 questions. All right, we'll go to the next one. Weight. I may forget to eat, or I have a tendency to easily lose weight. It's easy for me to gain or lose weight when I make the effort. I gain weight easily and it's hard to lose it. Give you guys a minute after, well, not a minute, a few more seconds after each one, just so you can think about those, but don't think too much into it. And as you answer these questions, think about where you are now in your life, right? So don't think about, hey, when I was a kid, I used to be able to lose weight really easy. That's different than it is now. Think about where you are right now, because that's what we want to focus on. What dosha imbalance are you currently going through? Your face, is it oval, heart-shaped, round, or square? Next one, eyes. Are they small and active? Are they medium with a penetrating gaze? Do you have large, pleasant eyes, like those doe eyes, those big cow eyes? Hair, is it thin, dry, or frizzy? Is it fine with a tendency towards early thinning or graying? Or is it thick with a tendency to be oily? Complexion, is your skin dry, rough, or thin? Is it warm, reddish in color and prone to irritation? Or is it thick, moist, and smooth? What your nails, are they dry, brittle, and cracked? Or are they flexible, soft, or pink? Are they white, strong, and smooth? Appetite, is it variable or light, strong, voracious, slow, and consistent? How would you best describe your appetite? Digestion, do you have a tendency to be irregular, have gas or bloating? Is it quick? Maybe have some acid indigestion at times? Or is it slow and steady? Elimination, we talk a lot about poop in Ayurveda. Are you irregular or constipated? Do you go often? Or is it loose at times? Or is it slow and sluggish? What about sleep? Is it light and easily disturbed? Do you sleep soundly, deeply, but you're an early riser? Or do you sleep deeply and it's prolonged, right? You wake up and you're like, I could sleep another 2 hours. body temperature? Do you tend to be cold, especially in the hands and feet? Are you warm regardless of the season? Or is it adaptable, but you particularly don't enjoy cold and wet weather? What about your speech? Is it excited, rapid, wordy? Is it focused and direct? Is it thoughtful and calm? When you're under stress, do you tend to feel overwhelmed, anxious, or worry a lot? Or do you get focused and try to problem solve, maybe get irritable and aggressive? Or do you kind of withdraw, get paralyzed, you can't make any decisions, become stubborn or reclusive? How do you respond under stress? And then mentally, are you uplifting, lively, restless, creative, enthusiastic? Would those be good words to describe you? Or more dynamic, intense, purposeful, sharp, judgmental at times? Are you steady, calm, slow, easygoing, empathetic? How about your memory? Do you have a short-term memory that tends to be scattered, that's sharp, maybe selective, or is it slow and long-term? Hobbies. Do you like art, music, creativity? Do you have a variety of interests? Or are you more into sports, competitive, or extreme activities? Or maybe you're a little bit more introverted and prefer quiet time or quiet activities, maybe independent things like knitting or Sudoku or something like that. And how about relationships, your friendships? Do you have many connections, but they're light and casual? Or do you have fewer, but they're intense, selective, and intentional? Or maybe you have a few really loyal, long-term friends. How would you describe your relationships? And then your project approach. Do you have various projects going on at a time, oscillating, experimental? Maybe you have a bunch of projects, you bounce back and forth, but you're not great at completing any of them, or you have difficulty completing them. Ooh. Should not be in here. So sports, competitive, extreme. Oh, for some reason I made a mistake here. I didn't even notice that. I'm sorry, you guys. So your project approach for a pitta would be more take charge, You focus on one project at a time. You're typically the leader of that project. Right? You want to get it done quickly. You want to get it done the best. You want to win at that project. And kapha would be, you're going to take your time. You're going to do that project. You're going to have a timeline. It's going to be very well organized. Everybody's going to know what's going on. At your meetings, you're going to bring cookies and maybe do a quiet meditation to start. Ooh, so let me go back to here. So that is it for the dosha quiz. So I'll give you guys a minute to just tally up how many V's and P's and K's you have. And hopefully that sort of made sense to you, or maybe that was something that you predicted as we went through the different doshas and described the different doshas. Hopefully you were able to see yourself in some of those descriptions. So I want to just give you guys a couple of recipes. You're welcome to screenshot these as well. These are really a couple of really nice recipes that are balancing for all three doshas. So regardless of your imbalance, whatever's happening, this is a nice way to kind of keep you in check and bring you back to balance. So this is called CCFT because it has cumin, coriander, and fennel in it. So it's just a simple tea that you can sip throughout the day that is really nourishing for the body and really will help to balance all the doshas. So feel free to go ahead and screenshot that. And if anybody doesn't know how to do that, I'm happy to email these recipes to you as well. I'll give you guys my email address at the end. And the next one is a dosha balancing khichdi. So khichdi is sort of like this stew. You can make it thicker or thinner depending on how much water you add, but it's balancing for all three doshas. I'll give you guys a list of herbs and spices that you can add depending on your doshic imbalance. It's super easy to digest and it's really nourishing for the body. So if you're feeling like really out of whack, or you have a lot of diarrhea, or you have a lot of constipation, or your digestion just feels off, or really anything, you're just not feeling right, something's out of whack, you can do a khichdi, a mono diet of just khichdi for a day or 2 days. Or you're eating that for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it's just a nice, really soothing, nourishing reset for the body. So again, if you guys want to screenshot that, again, I can email this to you as well, this recipe. And I'll show you the herbs and spices for each of the doshas, right? So if you're having a vata imbalance, these are the herbs and spices that you can add to your khichdi. So these are going to be a little bit more grounding, a little bit more heating, a little bit more warming to offset the lightness and the coolness and the dryness of a vata imbalance. And for pitta, you want to think about things that are a little bit more cooling, right? You don't want to add that heat because there's already so much heat, right? So things like cilantro, coriander, a mild curry, fennel, turmeric. Those are all nice. And then for kapha, you want to bring a little bit more heat, a little bit more zing, right, to get things moving. So things like black pepper, mustard seeds are really nice, thyme, ginger, anything heating, right? You want to stay away from cayenne because that can be very drying, right? And which wouldn't be too bad for a kapha person, but I would stay away from cayenne, but anything that's heating. But again, pick a couple and just notice how your body reacts to them. And then some dosha balancing daily practices. So we've talked about a few of these, but you want to develop a daily routine, right? Have some consistency in your day with eating and sleeping, right? Let your body and your mind not have to worry about that, right? It's very calming and soothing for the nervous system when the body and the mind know what to expect. You want to try to wake up by 6 a.m. And the first thing you should do when you wake up is scrape your tongue. So you guys can buy a tongue scraper. They're like $6 on Amazon. I think they sell them at the Natural Grocer in Newburyport. Or you can just use a spoon to scrape your tongue in the morning. So get familiar with your tongue, right? Notice, take a look at it. Notice if you have a white buildup on your tongue. That's what in Ayurveda we call ama. So it's undigested food, it's undigested experiences. So if you have this buildup on your tongue, you can bet that it's other places in your body, whether it's in your arteries or in your joints, maybe showing up as joint pain. But scraping your tongue is one way to get that out of your body and start to clear and cleanse the body. And not only that, but it also starts the digestive process. So it wakes up the belly, it wakes up the digestive enzymes in the body and starts to prepare you for eating your breakfast. So instead of starting with coffee in the morning, have a warm or hot cup of lemon water with honey, right? That's really cleansing. Honey has like a scraping effect. So when you drink this lemon water with honey, it kind of starts to clear and scrape out any buildup in the body. And it also kind of gets things going as well. It's a really nice way to begin the day. You're hydrating yourself as well. So you can do that Abhyanga in the morning or at night. That's self-oil massage. Really nice way to start the day. You can, if you have 20 minutes or half an hour and you want to do the whole body, do the whole body. If you just have 5 or 10 minutes, you can just do the hands and the feet. It's really nice to do the ears and inside the nose as well. Just kind of put a little oil into those orifices. So just when you're starting to, breathe in and you're starting to hear things, the oil sort of acts as a little bit of a barrier, like a soothing, moisturizing barrier. Again, you want to eat your meals at the same time every day. And also when you're eating, obviously, you guys, you want to be eating whole foods, right? You don't want to be eating any, processed or packaged food, anything like that. So you want to incorporate all 6 tastes into the food that you're eating, right? As Americans, we love sweet and we love salty, but like bitter, pungent, astringent, these are all tastes that we don't really go to. So you want to incorporate all of those tastes in your food because all of those tastes have different effects on your body and on your digestion. And you also want to avoid ice cold beverages. So this is really a pretty consistent rule. You don't really ever want to be drinking ice cold beverages. You do want to be drinking room temperature or warm drinks because of the effect that it has on the digestion. So if you think about your digestive fire as a fire, you're starting to, when you get hungry, you're feeling that heat build in your belly, you're feeling your appetite builds, you're getting hungry. Like the last thing you want to do is like dump a bunch of cold water on that to put that fire out. So when you're eating, you want to you don't want to drink a lot of water before, during, or after a meal. You want to just take a few sips to help with digestion, but really avoiding ice cold beverages throughout the day is a smart practice. I mean, give yourself a break. If you want a nice coffee or whatever you're into the middle of the summer, go for it, but just as a, on your typical days, you want to stay away from those really cold drinks. And then go to bed by 10, right? So these are some simple Ayurvedic practices that you can do that I guarantee if you pick 3 of these things and start to incorporate them into your everyday routine, you will 100% notice a difference. So this isn't an all or nothing thing. You know, you can pick 1 or 2 things and start incorporating those things. And once you feel like you have that down pat and you want to add a couple more on, go for it. Right? Nobody's judging you. You just do what you need to do. And Ayurveda certainly doesn't want to add, you know, I don't want to add any more stress or any more things that you need to do in your life, right? This is just kind of giving you some choices, right? Things that you can add or do or adjust to just start to make yourself feel better. And then finally, just some simple rules to live by. So like increases like, so we talked a little bit about that. You know, when it's the summertime and when pitta or fire is really high in your body, right? You get a skin rash or you have diarrhea, you have acid indigestion, don't drink alcohol, don't eat, you know, fatty fried foods. You want to think about this rule, opposites pacify. So like increases like is going to build that dosha even more. It's going to bring you more out of balance. So you want to bring those opposing qualities into your system to offset it. So if you're feeling a lot of heat, then you want to bring some cooling, calming qualities. If you're feeling a lot of dryness, a lot of constipation or gas or bloating, then bring some more soothing, moisturizing, grounding qualities into your life. And be really curious about how the food you eat, the activities you participate in, and the people that you spend your time with affect your body and mind. I know I have people in my life that when I leave them, I'm feeling more agitated or I'm feeling, you know, a little bit out of whack. You know, just notice the effects that everything that you do have on yourself, right? If you're binge watching Game of Thrones and then you can't sleep at night, well, it might be because you're binge watching Game of Thrones and you're overwhelming your senses and you're stimulating with, you know, violence and all these other things. You know, it doesn't mean that you can't watch it, but maybe just watch 1 episode a night as opposed to like 6 hours. So just kind of check yourself and notice what you're doing in your lifestyle and your activities and all of the things, right? Because anything and everything can either be medicinal or it can be poisonous, right? So notice how all of those things are affecting your body, mind, and spirit, and make tweaks, make adjustments, come back to these like increases like rules and the opposites pacify rule, and see what you can change to help make yourself feel better. So that's all I have. If I'm happy to take some questions.
That was great, Sharon. Thank you so much. I feel like you really simplified something that's complicated, you know?
Oh, good. Yeah, I'm good.
It make a lot of sense.
Good. I'm glad.
Thank you. There were a couple in the chat. Let's see if there's. Oh no, they're all just compliments thanking you and saying it's information. Does anyone have a question now for Sharon before we close off for the night? It doesn't sound like it, which means you did a very thorough job.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'm happy to take questions if anybody has anything specific about themselves. I know, looks like Maureen is not sure. Hopefully Maureen's question got answered. Yeah, good. So I'm happy to answer any questions if you guys have them. I do work one-on-one with folks, do individual consultations. You know, if you want to kind of do a deeper dive and see where things are going off out of balance. My email is Sharon Gordon Yoga. I'll type it into the chat. If you do want those recipes, I'm happy to send those to you as well, if you weren't able to capture them.
Thank you. And I did record the program. I'll send a recording out to everyone who registered. And I'll also send Sharon's contact information in that email as well.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. It was so good.
Oh, good. Thank you so much. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yes, I've tried Kitchery and it is really good.
Yes.
I did a 3-day cleanse with my daughter, and
Oh, nice.
it was the Kitchery, I think, for 2 meals, and then what, oatmeal in the morning? I can't even remember.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Awesome.
Common one. And a funny thing happened because you're supposed to make each one fresh. Like,
Yeah.
don't make a batch. Make each one fresh and with love.
Yeah.
And we were like fighting over what type of pepper to put in.
Yeah.
I don't think we're making it with love, Mom.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was fun to do it with somebody that was living in the same house.
Yeah. And you know, the thing about Ayurveda, it's like all of the different rules and, you know, all of the different things that you could do. You could wake up 6 hours early and still not have time to do all of the things, right? So it's about picking and choosing, right? And if you have to make a batch of kitchery to last you 2 days, then you can do that, right? Like it's better than, you know, no kitchery.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it was a very new food to me, but I liked it a lot.
Yeah, very nourishing and very easy to digest. And also the transition between seasons, you know, so I'll be doing my own kitchery cleanse in a couple of weeks. You know, you can do it
between seasons.
Yeah, do it between seasons, because especially, you know, as a pitta person, there's so much of that excess dosha that builds up in your body. Or maybe you're, you know, a kapha person or a vata person that, you know, during the season, like so much of it builds up in excess in your body. When you do that cleanse, it kind of helps to clear all that out and gives you a nice reset.
So do you feel like you do like the seasons when the
like the transition of the season?
Oh, okay. Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. Thank you. It's a complicated topic, and you did simplify it quite a bit. Thank you.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So can you talk about which oils for which doshas? So there's tons of different oils. To simplify it for you, if you have a pitta imbalance, you know, if you're having a lot of heat in your body, or if you're just a pitta person in general, coconut oil is a really nice oil to use, and also sunflower oil as well. There's some great vendors, great places where you can order these things, or I just get it from the grocery store, right? An organic sesame oil. I order a lot of products from Banyan Botanicals. They have a lovely website, tons of information as well. But you can order all different oils from them as well. But if you want to keep it simple, coconut oil for pitta, going to be a little bit more cooling, or sunflower oil. For vata, you want something a little bit more warming. So a sesame oil would be nice. You could also do an olive oil. That's like a neutral oil as well. So you could really do olive oil for any of the doshas. And then kapha, something a little bit more heating. So like a sesame oil, where you're doing that a little bit more of a more vigorous massage. Banyan Botanicals, and there's tons of different places where you can order stuff. They actually make oils, you know, you'll see the oil, it'll be like a kapha oil, kapha massage oil, pitta massage oil. So it's infused with all different herbs that will offset those qualities to your imbalance as you do the massage.
That's actually the company where we got our like starter stuff for.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah. It just made it simple rather than trying to go find it.
Totally.
Yes. We're good. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So for the oils, that's any time of year going with the dosha, right?
Yeah. And really, you know, just go by how you feel, right? Like try it and see how you feel. But you can do the oil, you know, you can make it as luxurious and lovely as you'd like by setting aside, a half an hour or an hour where, you know, you do a full body massage, and then you let that sit in for 15 minutes, and then take a shower and kind of rinse off and, you know, just soak up the hot spots and just sort of let the oil soak in. Or you can do it, you know, if you're short on time, which, you know, everybody is, you can do, you know, 5 minutes of a hand massage with the oil, you know, like I said, putting it in the ears. You can even, especially in the fall when things are so dry, or before you're going to travel, You can put
interesting.
you can put a couple drops of oil in your palm of your hand and rub your pinky in it, and then just stick it up your nose and lubricate the inside of the nostrils. That's really lovely as well. So you can really make it as luxurious or as quick and dirty as you want to. It's just all about getting it on there, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Does anyone else have any questions? No, I think we're all set. Thank you so much, Sharon.
Awesome. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much. And hopefully I see some of you around town.
Yeah, keep an eye out for her. She's new in town.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for coming, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Ren.
Bye-bye.